Not here! Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another episode of Dirt Nation Off-Road. So today what we're doing is a review of the Smittybilt GEN2 Overland tent, which is chilling right here. Now, what are these tents for? Overlanding. Let's talk about overlanding for a second. We've recently gotten a little bit more into the overland scene, although we're not exactly pros or anything like that. We're just a couple of dudes that have tents and trailers that go out on an adventure and have some fun. But we do have a series, which I'll link below, that you guys can start checking those videos out if you're interested. Now, I purchased this tent a few months ago in anticipation for that first overland trip. And since then, I've developed some strong opinions about this tent, as well as developed some opinions about rooftop tents in general, because it's my feeling that they're not for everybody. Now, this RTT is a baseline model. It's one of the cheaper slash smaller ones that can be picked up, and you can get it for anywhere from $1,200 to $1,300. So it's not cheap, but it's also not terribly expensive. As you continue to look at more expensive overland tents, you can expect to pay anywhere between $2,000 to $3,000, sometimes even $4,000, depending on the size, build, company, and everything like that. Specs-wise, this tent has the space for about 2 to 3 people. The bed size is a full, which is 92 by 55 inches. The max load rating is 666 pounds, has stainless steel hinges, LED lighting, it's waterproof. There's other features that are listed on their website, but I'm not gonna go through all of them. That's pretty much the gist of it. Now, what I'm gonna do for this review is first I'm gonna go over the things that are positive that I like, and then I'm going to go over the things that are negative that I don't like. That way we can cover both ends of the spectrum and then kind of go from there. Let you guys decide, is this the tent for you? Is RTTs the type of deal for you, and whatnot? Let's start off first with the discussion about rooftop tents in general. I think there's something to say about the positives and negatives of owning one. On the positive side, sleeping off the ground has been more comfortable for me than a ground tent. I know some people invest money into like quality mattresses, but I would typically just use a freaking sleeping bag or use an air mattress. And for my size of person, that usually isn't comfortable. So being off the ground usually is more comfortable for me. Being mounted on the rack also leaves a lot more room for supplies inside your bed. And lastly, there's a feeling of comfort knowing that you have somewhere comfortable to sleep in your vehicle at all times. I know not everybody will understand that, but that's just for me personally, as somebody that's always out and about, knowing that if something ever happens, I have a bed to sleep in on my truck brings me some kind of comfort, and I definitely consider that a positive. Now, for the negatives of owning an RTT, there's definitely a few. Weighing in at 130 pounds, give or take a couple pounds, this tent isn't terribly heavy. This tent isn't terribly heavy, but it will affect your gas mileage. In my experience, I found that the combination of the tent and the rack affects the gas mileage about 1 to 2 miles per gallon, depending on how heavy my foot is. But in this economy, that definitely does make a difference. We're spending a lot of money on gas, so when you have to spend more carrying this thing around, it hurts. The other thing that does get affected is suspension. I've found that when the truck doesn't have the tent on there, there's a little bit of space in between the bump stop and the frame, or I guess the bump stop, stopper. But when the tent's on there, it just rests on there ever so slightly. So that's just less room for your truck to do a bump stop in case you hit hard bumps. Now, I have jumped the truck with this on there. It landed hard, but it didn't do too bad. It was kind of fine. Another issue is setup. Because when this tent is set up, it pretty much makes the truck immobile. So at that point, you're either gonna be the last person setting up camp for the night, you're gonna have to ride with somebody else, or if you have something else to drive, then it's not necessarily a big deal. It's just something to think about. I've already heard some people, when I have conversations with them, that they don't like RTTs, or they wouldn't get an RTT because they don't want to be immobile. They want their vehicle to be able to drive off at any point in the night. So it's just something to think about. Now, the last thing that I'll talk about is the sun. I can imagine with some time and a lot of sun exposure, these covers and tents getting damaged, because the sun bakes everything. It's just the reality of life, especially living in California, living in the desert, living in, the places that I'm in. The sun's going to do some damage. Now, one option is to take off the tent, which I've done on a few times. I use this tent quite a bit, so I don't always take it off, but there have been times where I'll take off the tent and the rack at the same time. Now, the problem with that is, for me, I need 2 or 3 people to help me take that off. So finding people Plus, trying to take it off without scratching the freaking fiberglass can be a pain in the butt. I've done it. It's not the worst thing in the world. Like a lot of things, it's just something you got to think about, something you got to consider. Do you want to deal with the hassle of that, or do you want to deal with the hassle of the sun pretty much ruining your tent cover? It is what it is, not the hugest deal. Just think about it. All right, let's get started with the review. We're gonna start off with the positives. First off is setup. This tent is very simple to set up. From inside the box, setting it up, to on the trail, it is very, very straightforward, and all the tools that you need for the setup process are included in the box. Setup time I found to be between 5 and 10 minutes. I think I timed myself just now as a little over 6 minutes, like 6 minutes, 15 seconds, something like that. Not a crazy amount of time. Now, something that can be annoying about the tent is the fact that you have to park level in order to really set it up correctly, because if it's not level, then the hinges will open weird, the latches won't close correctly, and you'll be sleeping sideways. Usually what I'll do is I'll usually stack some rocks, haha, Stack Nation, underneath the tires. I think last time on our overland trip, we used some blocks of wood. You kind of got to just do what you got to do to get the truck level so that the tent opens correctly. Next up is design. This tent is designed well. It looks as though Smittybilt took the time to test and perfect this product because it all meshes well together. It's the details that stick out to me, such as the shoe bag placement, the ladder design and execution, the double Velcro straps on the opposite sides of the hinge, the hooks on the inside of the hinges, and the way nothing really binds up when you're opening and closing the tent. It all just works well together. Another thing that impresses me about the design is how it still closes up into a neat package. I've always found that with ground tents, that as soon as you open them up, set them up and try to put them away, they never go back into the original packaging the correct way. I'm curious to your guys' thoughts on that, because I've always found that with ground tents. It's annoying as hell. That's not the case with this RTT. These clean up nicely, going back inside the cover with a fresh, nice, clean look. When you initially close the tent, you'll have to stuff some fabric in to get it to settle correctly, but nothing crazy. Lastly, I'll talk about comfort. This tent is pretty comfortable overall, with a decent amount of space for 2, maybe 3 small people. The 3-inch memory foam mattress is a lot more comfortable than sleeping on an air mattress or sleeping bag on a ground tent. Since I'm on the heavier side, I tend to sink in this mattress, so it's not the most comfortable place to sleep, but it's suitable for 2 to 3 days of camping. I usually don't have any back pain. I usually can sleep pretty well. I don't have too many problems with it. I may look into upgrading this mattress if Smittybilt offers anything like that, or there's any aftermarket. If you guys know anything, definitely comment below, because I'm going to continue using this tent and for the purposes of reviewing it, and I may want to upgrade the mattress just so it's a little more comfortable for my thick ass. Moving on to the negatives, first off, I'll talk about how I received the tent. When I first got it, it had some damage from being handled, and one of the corners was like really smashed in. Now, I noticed it when I put it together. I didn't proceed to take it back or do anything like that because I literally had a camping trip the next day. So I had a 3-day overlanding trip, and since then I've just, hey, it's not that big of a deal. It's more my fault for not saying anything, but it did show up damaged, and that is just a precaution for you guys when you receive something, especially something big and heavy that is either shipped or handled by a lot of people. Check it, because you never know, there might be some damage that you got to get taken care of. Now, although I had good things and high praise for the design and build quality, there's some things that I gotta mention as negatives because they annoy the hell out of me with this RTT. First off, the bolts on the hinges are absolute junk on this thing. I have continued to have problems with the bolts that came with it, even though the nuts are nylock and I would tighten them, I would do everything like that. I even Loctited them, and they would continue to come loose to where the hinge would be separating from the tent itself, and you couldn't open it correctly. Just with all the off-roading and all the shaking, for some reason, those continued to come loose. I ended up replacing all 8 bolts with some, bolts from somewhere else, and since then I haven't had a problem. The other part that I've had issues with is the zippers. The zippers on this tent are freaking junk. And I hate to say it like that, but they are. They are junk. I've had them fail on me multiple times. We'll see. We might have footage right now of me failing to put this back together to finish this video, because I sit there and have to mess with the zippers a bunch because they won't zip, or fabric gets caught in there, or the zipper will start to separate as I'm zipping it. It's just problems all over the place. They didn't use quality zippers on this product. And the other thing with the zippers is they have these weird tubing pieces that run along the frame of the tent, which holds the zippers into place. Those tend to slide all over the place. So when you put the tent back together, you have to adjust all that stuff. And sometimes you have to adjust it all the way around the tent in order to get everything to line up correctly, in order to like re-zip the cover back on there. That part is like not the worst deal. It's just like some adjustments you have to make, but it can be annoying, and it's something that I almost have to mess with every single time I put the tent back together. So overall, this is a you get what you pay for type of product. Being budget friendly option, there will be drawbacks and cut corners. But overall, this is a decent option for those looking to get started in the hobby. This tent is great for those looking to do some light camping a couple times a year. Now, for me personally, I use it at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. So I'm looking forward to reviewing this in the long term to see how it is durability wise, because that's the thing with like cheaper products or budget friendly products is they usually work well up front, but how long do they last? How long can they hold up to abuse and constant use? So that's why I'm here. I'm gonna be definitely giving the review of this tent right there. So that's it for our review of the Smittybilt Gen 2 Overland tent. I will link below where I got mine so you guys can check it out if you like. But we are all done here. I wanna thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Patreon. You also hit us up for shirts, hats, hoodies, and all those other goodies at dirtnationoffroad@gmail.com. You can also get Wagon Junkie hats from us, or you can get them from Wagon Junkie himself. Hit them up. I'll link them below because I like Jay so much. But we're all done here. Thank you guys. We'll see you again next time.